In the year 2014, the world becomes a frozen wasteland as a result of human intervention in an attempt to change the increasingly hot climate. 7 years later, in 2021, some of the last survivors of the human race have made their way onto a perpetual motion train engine built by the mysterious Mr. Wilford. This Snowpiercer is circling around the world in order to keep its passengers in motion and thus alive. However, due to the strict class system, tensions are rising and the pressure may become too much, even for Snowpiercer. Welcome to the recap of the first season of Snowpiercer. Just before the train departed, hordes of people stormed it and some managed to get on board. These people are now known as the tailies, living in the tail of the train and under horrendous conditions. Fed up living like this, they plan a revolution. But then, one of their leader, Andre Layton, is summoned by Melanie Cavill, the voice of the train, and Roche, the head of the brakemen. Being a former detective, Layton is requested to solve a murder. Meanwhile, Pike starts a revolution, but after taking just one car, they are stopped by a well-armed security force. Layton then arrives to put an end to the premature revolution. Later in the control room, Melanie is called Mr. Wilford by Bennett. Together with Bess, Layton examines the victim's body and finds the victim's missing limbs, while in the tale, Miles is taken up train by Ruth to become a future engineer. When later that day Bess takes Layton back to his cell, the tailie draws the layout of the train on a piece of clothing and puts up a distraction so that another tailie can take that information with him. However, in doing so, he's knocked out, and when he wakes up, Melanie scolds him, but he replies that he knows that the murder victim was a spy for Wilford. Melanie and Roche admit that the victim was indeed a spy, who was keeping tabs on a new drug called Chronol. Layton reveals to them that Chronol is not new, and they interrogate Dr. Henry, who reveals that he has sold some of it on the black market. This leads Layton to Terrence, who describes the suspect of the murder to him. However, before Layton reveals the information to Melanie, he demands a visit to Josie and secretly gives her an access chip to open doors with. Meanwhile, the real killer Eric kills Nikki. After learning of Nikki's death, Melanie and Layton investigate first class. There, LJ Folger reveals that Eric is missing, causing Bess and Osweiler to chase him through the train, leading to his death by the train's security. Using the access chip, Josie turns a former tailie, Astrid, who now works in third, into a spy for the tail. During a personal conversation with LJ, Layton finds out that she used Eric to kill those men, and he hands her over to Melanie. With the killer found, Melanie then drugs Layton and puts him in a drawer for knowing that she is actually running the train. After learning of Layton's disappearance, Josie uses the access chip to go look for him. Astrid points her to Terrence, who takes her to the drawer's car, where she finds Layton. However, she is found by Bess and Osweiler, and with Bess's help takes Layton to Zara. Meanwhile, LJ stands trial for her involvement in the killings, and during her testimony shocks Melanie by revealing that the second victim told her all kinds of information about Mr. Wilford. The tribunal then finds her guilty, but a scared Melanie secretly arranges for LJ to be released in fear of her exposing Melanie's identity. This decision leads to a work stoppage organized by Audrey in Third, where Nikki was from. As a response, Melanie visits Third and threatens to send some of them to the tail if they continue with the strike. Meanwhile, Layton wakes up and tells Josie the truth about Melanie and then goes to find her. But when he does, he eventually lets her go to fix Snowpiercer's mechanical problem, because if she doesn't, the whole train will derail. Fortunately for them, Melanie manages to fix Snowpiercer, and in the happiness that they survived, the work stoppage is discontinued. Wanting to start his revolution, Layton meets with Audrey and other key people they trust. Meanwhile, Melanie threatens a pregnant Zara to tell her who helped Layton escape. Zara snitches on Josie, who is then taken for interrogation. However, Josie refuses to give up Layton, and Melanie tortures her. With Bess's help, Josie manages to break free and attack Melanie, but Melanie survives the encounter and leaves Josie locked up in her office to die from the freeze. Bess informs Layton of this, and he in turn convinces LJ to help him, while Melanie gives Miles access to the engine. Loyal to the tale, Miles gives LJ access to the engine and Melanie's room, with LJ realizing that Melanie runs Snowpiercer. She then tells her parents, who tell Ruth, and together they confront Melanie and expose her. Meanwhile, Layton rallies his people to start a revolution, while Melanie reveals to Ruth that she built Snowpiercer and that Wilford was a fraud. When Commander Gray then hears of the rebellion, he attacks the rebels in the night car, but is outmatched and retreats. Wanting to know how to beat his opponent, he has Pike brought to him to find out how to best combat Layton. Back in the train, Pike visits Layton and offers him two options from Commander Gray. Either he surrenders and is executed, or they will gas every last rebel. Meanwhile, Melanie escapes her execution and meets with Layton, offering him the train by uncoupling the cars where the jackboots are gathered. As part of this plan, he surrenders to Gray and First Class, but once up train, Layton escapes his guards and uncouples the front end of the separation cars, while Melanie uncouples the back end, leaving the jackboots, Commander Gray, the Folger parents, but also his imprisoned friends to most likely die by the freeze. Now that the rebels have won the war, Melanie hands over power and access of Snowpiercer to Layton. But they are then confronted with the appearance of another one of Wilford's trains, Big Alice, a supply train. Melanie believes that Mr. Wilford himself is on the train and warns Layton about him. When Big Alice literally gets a hold of Snowpiercer and brings her to a stop, Melanie, who is outside to sever the physical uplink with Big Alice, is thrown off the train and into the snow. Layton's army then prepares for a possible fight, while Ruth welcomes Mr. Wilford by being the subservient and loyal subordinate. However, when the Snowpiercer steel door opens, it is not Mr. Wilford who appears, but Melanie's daughter, Alexandra, who warns them that they have 13 minutes to surrender or they will die from the freeze. Thank you for watching this video. I have more recaps on this channel and will continue to make more Snowpiercer videos in the future. If you are interested in that, subscribe to not miss out, and I will see you on the next recap.